Hey guys, Blazie here, and welcome to this random video of me, Blazie, this guy right here. It's a me, Blazie, a furry you should subscribe to and like and comment your thoughts down below. Thank you. Here's a random video of me explaining what life would be like if furries existed in a human world. Now by that I mean live alongside us stinky humans, as I think that this will be a fun topic to kind of talk about. Example, would human cops still be called pigs? God damn stomach. Yeah, now it smells like Pepsi in here. Sponsor me. What happens if a pig becomes a cop? Would they get called a human? Would furries exist in that world? Like humans that wish they were born as an anthro in that world? And if so, would the same go for anthros wishing they were born as humans? It's kind of a fascinating subject that is in a lot of fantasy novels, games, TV shows, and movies, but none of them really go into detail. Beastars tried to do the whole, what if carnivores and herbivores were anthros and lived together as normal day-to-day human-like animals? But I don't think it worked very well, as it went into a very weird mafia storyline that just wasn't needed, as it took away from the world itself and just became so bizarre when they're in high school, but sure, mafia. And the black market stuff and the idea of some carnivores going crazy and suddenly become feral and need meat, I thought was just extremely stupid. Because why put them in a school together if it's like a known thing that happens a lot to teenagers? Also, the whole instincts thing is just kind of dumb to me. I don't know, I'm not here to talk about my hate for Beastars. You had BNA, brand new animal, that had beastmen that can turn from human into animals, and that world then segregated them to their own island. So yeah, some speciesism in that anime, interesting concept, but then the animals never stay in animal form, which confused the hell out of me because I hate humans and can live as their other forms, but don't? It makes zero sense. Anyway, let's start with food, then, in this human and anthro world. An example, the simple thing of eating cows and pigs. Well, I think there would be both anthros and ferals, much like there are still feral humans. They are called monkeys. Clearly I'm not a Christian. But monkeys are essentially humans that never evolved, so I think there will be anthro cows and feral cows. But there might be a possibility that there will not be any anthro cows because it's a species that was then used for meat and milk and so on and so forth by other animals that did evolve. But let's just say that there are anthro cows and feral cows. Now, would it be morally right? No, much like it's not today. Because then the anthros would be asking, well, what about human meat? Why do they never get to sacrifice humans? Well, maybe there will be a human farm as well. Who's to say there wouldn't be? But here's my thoughts on it. We are taking things too literal. We are talking too closely about the world we live in today. I simply think they would have solved hunger in a different way and made different kinds of food. Maybe they would have made insect farms or something along those lines to create much different food. Maybe all the land that would be for feral cows and sheep and such would just be fruit trees and vegetables. We would have much more bigger, flavoursome herbivore food, since a bunch of herbivores have always lived in that world. The herbivores that became chefs would create so many incredible dishes, being able to work with all kinds of herbivores to do so. So the food would be very different, while vegan food is still growing and learning here in our world. Vegan food would have always been a thing in their world. I also think carnivores would just kind of adapt to eating fruit and such and maybe focus on insects to get their protein. I really don't think the Beastars thing of they have an instinct for meat would ever happen. I mean, there's vegans who don't eat meat and don't have that sort of instinct they need meat, they crave it. That doesn't happen. So the next question, would there be furries in an anthro and human world? I think so, but in a completely different way. I think a lot of it would be body dysphoria. It will be oh, this exists. I wish I could have been born as this. Same would go for other species. A fox might wish he was a cow. Not just like other genders, but other species. There might be species that wish they had udders. There might be humans that wish they had like long claws. I think as well that both human and anthros would get tail dysphoria, where humans would want a tail that they wear fake tails to feel like a fox or a bunny, but then there would be anthros who wish they didn't have a tail, much like a human, and may even like take drastic measures, aka cut off their tails. Yeah, I think there would be like a lot of weird dysphoria in ways that are not present in our world. Hell, even with scalies, I'm not really like talking about here too much, but like dysphoria over wanting scales over fur, I think would be a thing. Let's move on though from that thought. So then, interspecies relationships. Oh hell yeah there would be. You think a gay human wouldn't try to ride a horse anthro? They would. Oh, the jealousy human males would have with horse anthros and the like. And yes, hybrids would exist, like they kind of do now, but they do tend to like live short lives and, you know, have kind of be more prone to diseases and such, and have health issues. But I think because it would probably happen quite often, I think life will kind of adapt to it more, being a bit normal and having more of a shared animal DNA that hybrids are more likely to happen, but not with humans. I do think humans and anthros won't ever be able to have a kid, but there would definitely be some kind of experiment to try and make that happen. Of course, humans are weirdos that would try to become fast like a cheetah, or well endowed like a horse. Those kind of hybrid experiments would absolutely happen. But now the real question, would it be frowned upon for a human to get with an anthro? That is a good question. I feel like being gay, like being part of the LGBTQIA+, like it wouldn't be a worry in that world. It wouldn't be niche because gay animals do exist. So I think gay and such would always be a thing. But what might cause some family trouble is if you're a human and brought your anthro hippo lover home for dinner. Not only does it tell your family your preference, but it also says you're definitely not going to have children. As I said before, I don't think those kind of hybrids would exist. I think it depends though. I think there would be maybe like royal bloodlines that stay only human and one that stays as an anthro. But then I'm sure there would be mixed families too. In short, I'm sure speciesism would exist in many ways, especially with humans being so different looking. What about, say, having an anthro as a housemate? If you're human, well, you could imagine the amount of fur you would be picking up off the carpet. Like, you would be doing the vacuuming and it would get clogged so much thanks to your roommate. This is where you set the rules that they do the vacuuming and you clean the dishes. I do think the first situation would be the most annoying with an anthro housemate. It would get in the food, it would get in the shower drain, so it would be their responsibility to deal with it. So maybe taking in a reptile as a housemate might be the better option for a human. What about technology? Well, simple. There'll be chairs for those with tails and those without. Be certain types of phones that work with claws over just skin and paw pads. Again, it's one of those things where it's not our world. It wouldn't be the same way. But what about unfair advantages? Like cheetahs being faster at sports. Well, that's something that might be segmented and be done in groups of different animals like the speedsters and everyone else. Which would then be like a whole thing to kind of work on, you know. It is something that's gonna take a very long time to try and understand. But then say birds, for example, who can just travel by flight without needing to pay for it. Yeah, that's where things would suck for everyone. They got an advantage just because of how they were born, just like horses. Heh. And that will be one of those things that will suck in the Anthro world. So it's not all rainbows. I don't know, maybe as a bird you need to get like a flying license or something? You know, like how England has a TV license just to own a TV, I think it is, or some crap like that, which is so weird. So maybe to be able to actually fly, you need to have like some kind of license. You need to pay to be able to fly. It sounds bizarre because then it's also then speciesism of like forcing an entire species to pay for something just because, you know, they were born with it. But maybe something like that would happen. Though all of that is going more into like Zootopia levels of world building and not the human and Anthros thing, but it's still an interesting thing to talk about. Like, humans can't fly, so I think it's valid to talk about that. Humans would get jealous of bird Anthros for that reason. So there's probably a lot more to talk about, but I'm so dumb. I can't think of anything, so I think that's it for today's video. I know, it was a bit of a weird one, but I thought it was an interesting subject. If you guys got any suggestions for videos, let me know down in the comments below. Follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter, all linked down below. And please let me know what you thought about this video, and give it a like and subscribe to our channel, because I'll love you if you do. Hit that bell icon, and VitoFox says, be who you want to be. Alright guys, bye for now.